Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Once again, I have been relatively busy. I went to the Cheltenham races, to the festival, as I do every year. It's now become a tradition after I started going about 7 years ago. A mate of mine invited me, and at that point, it was just 3 of us in total who went. This friend, called Dan, is a big horse racing fan, and he absolutely loves the Cheltenham Festival so much. Every year he talks to more and more people he knows about it. He's so enthusiastic about it. He invites them along and they love it. Then they come back year after year. So what started out as just 3 of us going to the festival together has now grown to about 30 odd people he buys tickets for. For the first time this year, there was enough of us all travelling from the same place to warrant hiring a minibus to get there, which I must say was much better. The trains, as you can imagine, are quite expensive on that day, and Cheltenham rail station is very busy when you arrive and even busier when you try to leave at the end of the day. So having our own transport to take us straight into the course and leave us within walking distance of our entrance and then be waiting there for us after we came back was an improvement on some previous years when we've had to wait in the pouring rain for about an hour to get a coach back to the train station and then wait a further 45 minutes there to get on the train. So that was a big bonus from this year. We went on the Thursday, which they bill as St. Patrick's Thursday, even though the day itself wasn't actually until the following Monday. When we originally planned to go on this day, the horse I have shares in, Stage Star, was meant to run. Unfortunately, due to a change in plan, that was no longer going to be the case, and we did know that from about a month or so before we were going to go. However, it is such an amazing event. I am a fan of horse racing. The standard of races at the Cheltenham Festival are ridiculous. It brings together the best horses from across the UK and all over Ireland. The finishes are generally very exciting. Where we go, we get a great view of the whole track. So you can see the horses going all the way around, and we stand right on the finish line, which of course is where all the final excitement and the race unfolds in front of you. It's great. We get there around about midday, manage to get ourselves a drink or two before the racing starts, and then it is down to business. It's amazing how quickly the afternoon goes between watching the races, putting your bets on with the bookies, having a chat and catch up with everyone, and then before you know it, it's time for the next race. The whole afternoon goes by so quickly. I did all right, to be honest. Had a couple of winners on the day, which meant I actually came back with the same amount of money that I went with, which I personally see as a big win for a day at the races. With some cash still in my pocket, I headed to the minibus with the rest of our group. We did have to wait in a fair bit of traffic to get out of Cheltenham itself, but once we got beyond that, we actually got back quite quickly. I was quite keen that we did that because Tottenham were playing a second leg of one of their Europa League matches, and I really wanted to see it. We were at home, so I would have been at the game and did actually have a ticket for it, but Cheltenham was booked long before that fixture was arranged, so that took priority. But I did want to get to a pub to watch it, and we did make it just in time to a place where I got to watch the whole game, see us progress to the next round, and then get the train home to be back in my house by midnight, which to me meant it was a very successful, great day out at the Cheltenham Festival. Recently, I met up with a friend of mine who I met while we were working for a radio station down in Somerset. When I first started working down there, doing some cover work, I did the mid-morning show and they were on the breakfast show. So basically, both of us were finished for the day by about 2:30 in the afternoon. So most weekday afternoons, we met up down one of the local pubs and just had a couple of soft drinks, would you believe, and played some pool. At that time, I was playing pool quite regularly. We were playing every afternoon. I wasn't too bad and could be quite competitive. We were quite evenly matched at that time as well, which meant the games were close and there was normally only 1 or 2 games in it when we finished for the day. We decided to try and relive those glory days the other week when we met up in a pub to just have a regular catch-up. We found one with a pool table that was bookable, so we booked it for 1 hour and proceeded to play against each other. As it turns out, we were both a little bit rusty, to say the least. Sadly, I was a lot more rusty. I was absolutely terrible. We played 6 games in total and I lost 5 of them. It should have been only 4 that I lost, but this sums up how bad I was. On the very last game we played, with my very last shot, I potted the blank ball, which should have meant I won the game. However, I then had to watch agonisingly as the white ball also went into the pocket, forfeiting the game. It was good fun. I enjoyed it. We did have a chance to have a good reminisce about the old days while also telling each other what we were currently up to. It was good fun and I enjoyed it. The weird thing though was I had not played pool for quite a long time, and ridiculous though this sounds, the next day when I got up I felt a strange pain in my hip and I couldn't work out what it was. I was trying to think, what have I done to hurt my hip? And then about halfway through the morning, it suddenly hit me that it must have been when I was bending over the pool table. I'm obviously so out of shape and have not been in that position for so many years. It actually made my hip hurt for a few days, which is quite disappointing. When I was a teenager, I used to go and watch Wycombe Wanderers all the time when they played at home. I've always been a Tottenham Hotspur fan, but it was a lot harder to get tickets for Spurs, and also Wycombe was just down the road from where I live, so I used to watch them in the Martin O'Neill glory days as they moved from Lokes Park to their new stadium, Adams Park, and as they got promotion into the Football League. It was an exciting time to be going to Wycombe Wanderers matches. Earlier this year, a mate of mine said he was going to try and organise for a group of us to go to the Wycombe Wanderers against Wrexham game at Adams Park this season. I had not been to Wycombe for quite a few years, so I said I'd like to go along. This mate was bringing his son, and he suggested that another one of our mates should go and bring his 2 sons as well. So we all got tickets together. And then also my mate Steve, who I've known from our first day at primary school together when we were 4, he now lives in Wales and supports Wrexham, as does his son. They had managed to get tickets in the Wrexham end and were coming down for the day. In the week leading up to the game, when I already had tickets to go in the family stand with my mates, my uncle then got in touch to tell me that he'd organised a box for the family if I wanted a ticket to go in there. Now, tempting though that was, I had already agreed to go with my friends in the normal seats, so I stuck with that option. Of course, the whole day worked out really well in the end. My mate Steve and his son Jordan drove down from Wales and met me in the town where I live. We then got the train to Wycombe together, got a chance to have a good catch up then we hopped in a taxi to get to the ground. There we met my other mates and managed to all have a drink together before the game, which was fantastic. Then for the match we went our separate ways. Steve and Jordan went with the Wrexham fans and I went with my mates to sit with the Wycombe Wanderers fans. When we took our seat, as it happened, my entire family in their box were just over our right shoulder, so we got to wave and shout hello at each other as we got ready to watch the game. I was a bit out of touch with the Wycombe squad and team, to be honest, but I thought they played really well. I wasn't that impressed with the way Wrexham were playing, but they do have quite a few ex-Premier League players in their ranks, and I think in the end that experience did just about tell against Wycombe. It was a bit unfortunate. We had a long delay in the game because there was a medical emergency in the Wrexham end with one of their fans, which the emergency services did a fantastic job with dealing with. But it did mean there was a 30-minute break to the action, which meant oddly it was kind of a game of three halves. Because it was such a long gap, the players then had to come out and do a warm-up, so it just took a lot longer. And it was so weird because the game had been stopped when Wycombe had a corner, so it restarted with a Wycombe Wanderers corner, which they very nearly scored from. And then just 5 minutes after that, Wrexham got the goal that won them the game. It was good fun catching up with my mates' sons, particularly as two of them were at their very first live football match. So it's great to share that experience with them. At the end of the game, I went to get a taxi back with my mates from Wrexham and headed home with them and said goodbye to the rest of my mates at the ground. As it happened, I returned to Wycombe Wanderers last weekend to watch them play against Stevenage, as I was invited to go with another mate of mine. Great to spend the day watching the game with him. It's a fantastic way of catching up with people going to a football match, particularly one where you want the home team to win, but maybe not quite as invested as I am as when I go and watch Tottenham play. I have a lot of friends in radio, having worked in the industry since I was about 18. My mate Jeff lives in Liverpool. He was down a couple of weekends ago on a Friday, so I met him after work for a few drinks. He is the biggest fan in the world, I think, of Camden. So he'd been out there having a few drinks and looking around all his old favourite haunts before he got to me, and we just went for a few drinks near to where I work. It was brilliant to catch up and share current and past radio stories, things we'd forgotten, things that had happened, promotions and radio shows that we had done. Spent a lovely couple of hours catching up with him and still got home a reasonable time, which is definitely something I prefer nowadays. I'm totally rock and roll up to about 11 o'clock, then I kind of want my bed. Just 2 weeks after Jeff had been in London, it was my turn to go up to Liverpool. I have been going to the Aintree Grand National Festival for about 15 years now. It started with an invitation from Jeff. I went up there, absolutely loved it, been going ever since. We always make a long weekend of it. I now go with my girlfriend Linda. We have found this amazing place to stay where we've now stayed the last 3 years. It's on Beach Lawn in Crosby, and the apartment we have is the billiard room apartment. It's part of the house that was originally built by the man who started the White Star Line shipping company. Their most famous ship, I guess, is the Titanic. They themed the house to reflect the history of the man, of the family, and obviously of the company. And you look out onto the Mersey, so you can actually see the big passenger ships, particularly at night, going right past with all their lights. When the house was originally owned by the guy who was in charge, the ship's members used to always salute the house as they went past. So I don't know why, but whenever we stay there and I see a boat go past, I always salute from the living room or the conservatory, depending on where we are. It's such an amazing place to stay. So we stayed there again. We always go up on the Thursday, which is the first day of the racing. This time for the first year, we decided to drive rather than take the train. I mentioned earlier that Stage Star was originally meant to run at Cheltenham, my horse, but then didn't. The reason for that is they decided to run him at Aintree instead on the Thursday. My girlfriend has an electric car. So on the way up, we had to stop just to put a bit of extra charge in. I kind of insisted that we stopped round about the time that Stage Star was due to run his race, so I could sit in the services on their Wi-Fi and watch that race on my tablet, which is exactly what we did. He ran fantastically well. He was in the lead for most of the way round. I was getting quite excited, but then he just ran out of a bit of steam over the last couple of fences and was beaten by two better horses at the end of the day. But finishing third in a race of that calibre at Aintree is no mean feat. Once that race was over, we were back in the car and on to check into our luxury apartment. The first time Linda and I went up for the Aintree weekend together, we stumbled across this place not far from where we are staying, where I can eat. They can supply me with a fully safe gluten-free meal, and the food there is amazing. It's a Spanish place called Tapas, and yes, they do tapas, but they also do the most amazing paella. So we always order that. They make it to order, so it's about a 45-minute wait for it, and you have to have it for a minimum of 2 people. So we did get a starter just to help us with the wait. And we had a couple of nice glasses of wine as well. I went with the Rioja, which was fantastic. The main course then turned up and was as good as we remember. You do get so much food. So for the second year running, we didn't finish all of our paella, so we had to ask them to put it in the box so we could take it home, which we did because it was far too good to waste. After we'd eaten, we then went and met my mate Jeff in a local pub to have a catch up with him. I had to get him to select a pub that had football on the TV, as Spurs were away at Chelsea that night and I had to watch it. That is all I'm going to say about that game. It didn't go quite how I wanted it to, but I did not let it spoil my weekend. Once the football was over, we went home and rested up for the main event, which is Ladies' Day. That is the day we always go to the Aintree racecourse. We make sure we have a nice breakfast first, then it's pre-race drinks at Jeff's and a few photos, then a taxi to Aintree racecourse. It is always a great day's racing. We go to the festival zone, which gives you access to several great areas of the course, including a massive great tent where they have big screens to watch the races and live music in between the races. Oh, and there's a bar in there too. We make sure we take lots of really nice photos of us dressed up in our best suits and outfits. We all really make an effort for the day. This year, Jeff had actually purchased a couple of seats in the stands, so I went and watched at least one of the races from the stands, so I did see some race action. That has not always been the case when I've been going to this day with Jeff. For the first 5 years I went to Aintree Ladies' Day, I do not think I saw a horse, but I do make sure I see at least 1 or 2 races nowadays. It was really busy this year, probably the busiest I've seen it for a fair few years, which was great. The only problem with it being so busy is it can be a bit of a nightmare to get out, so we always just duck out after the penultimate race so we can get a taxi back to the Crosby area of Liverpool for some more drinks, which we do. Then it's normally rounded off by a Domino pizza delivery, which it was this year. Just a perfect end to the perfect day. The first year I went, I got a picture of me outside the main entrance where it says the Grand National right above it. I have got the same picture from every single year that I've been, an exact replica. One day I'll make a great montage of all of them. The Saturday itself, we always make sure, of course, we plan to watch the Grand National somewhere. This year, it was just Linda and I on the Saturday to amuse and entertain ourselves. So we went to this lovely place for brunch suggested by Jeff, who again looked after me perfectly. That was really nice. It was called the Azul Monkey, and Linda and I both ordered the cappuccino, which come with a monkey face in it, which really amused me. After food, we just went for a nice walk around town. We were so lucky lucky with the weather over the weekend. The entire 4 days we were up there were glorious, so we were trying to decide what to do to make the most of the weather and to make sure we could see that day's racing. One of our regrets of the 2 previous years was we were staying in this amazing apartment, but we didn't get to spend too much time there. So we decided, as it was nice and it had a nice area outside where you could sit in the sun overlooking the Mersey and the beach and have a few drinks, we did that. And that meant we sat out there most of the afternoon and then kept nipping in to watch the races, including the big one of the day and of the year, the Grand National, of course. Well done to you. If you, like my dad, picked the winner of the National this year, I picked 3 horses and none of mine were any good at all. I was nowhere near picking that winner, would not have spotted it in a million years. So if you got that, congratulations. Once the race finished, we went back out to a bar we've been to several times before called Inside Number 4. They do great food. Again, they've got a very good gluten-free menu and do look after celiacs very well. So went and had a fantastic 3-course meal there, which was topped off by some gluten-free sticky toffee pudding, which is always a big win for me. It is quite a tiring weekend, so after food we headed back to spend the rest of the evening relaxing in the billiard room apartment lounge, and then one more sleep before we had to head home. The Sunday before we went home was also another lovely day weather-wise. One thing we hadn't done that was right on our doorstep due to the weather of the previous years and normally the fact we were so busy, we hadn't actually been for a walk on Crosby Beach, which was right in front of us, and hadn't seen the art installation by Anthony Gormley, the Iron Men. So we thought we'd go and have a look at that. It took us a while to pick our way through the sand dunes and work out where we needed to go. Now, I thought it was a bit like his Angel of the North in that there was just one of these giant Iron Men. What I didn't realise was there is, I think, about 100 of them, and they're all set at different depths in the sand. So some you can just see the top of their heads, and some you can see their whole bodies. It just depends. And also it depends on how far the tide is in, how many and how much of them you can actually see at any given time. It is quite a weird but really interesting piece of art. We walked around and had a look at a few. One thing that surprised me slightly is they are anatomically correct, shall we say. I wasn't expecting to see that on the Iron Man sculptures, but there you are. I, of course, had my picture taken with one of them to prove we were there. We had a nice walk along the beach for about half an hour. I was quite surprised with how big and how popular the beach was. It was really nice. I bet on a summer's day that is jam-packed and absolutely amazing. So I'm glad we finally ventured the extra 5 minutes onto the beach. Then it was time to pack up, hop in the car and head home. But it was another great and successful weekend up in Liverpool for the Aintree Horse Racing Festival. We're already planning our trip back up there for next year. That is it for this episode. Just a reminder that you can hear my radio show Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4 at radio9springs.com. Take care, look after yourselves and each other. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.